Hello and welcome back to the Awaara Musaafir show. So, this episode is very different from whatever you have seen on this podcast up till now. This episode is with Snehal Malpani, who is an international NLP trainer. She teaches her clients about image management, she teaches them about leadership, she teaches them about relationships. So, this episode is very different from whatever we have done till date. In fact, we talk a lot about how leaders around the world behave. We talk about NLP, which is Neuro-Linguistic Programming, and this is used for doing a little bit of tweaks in your personality. So, this is a very in depth podcast. Do listen it till the end. I'm sure you will enjoy it. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, then please do that. So, hello Snehal, welcome on the Awaara Musaafir show. इस episode के पहले we were planning to do an episode on leadership with a lot of people, but I'm so happy that I'm doing this with you because there are a lot of other topics जो हम cover करने वाले हैं इसमें. So, firstly, welcome on the Awaara Musaafir show.
Thank you, Jay. And let me congratulate you on doing this wonderful show, and your
Thank you.
podcast channel is really interesting. Especially, I've listened to your talks with the historians and army people, and it's so inspiring and motivating. And there's so much new to know and understand. So kudos, congratulations.
Thank you. So, one of the major reasons to start this podcast was to give people something which the schools and colleges cannot for various reasons. And one of those things is the leadership quality. Now, you are a leadership coach and you talk with a lot of people. You teach them about leadership, confidence, the self-improvement segment, basically. So, let's start this podcast with very basic question about leaderships. According to you, what is leadership, first of all? Like, what is that one thing which makes a leader who he or she is?
I think the ability to drive change and to inspire others is a leadership skill. Then there are a lot of qualities that you talk about that a leader should have, or the different characteristics. But if I were to just sum it up in just a short sentence, then it should just be an ability to drive change, to bring change, to imagine, to visualize that change. So
right. So if I had to ask you, like, you have obviously trained a lot of people in leadership qualities and how to be a leader from various age groups, I'm guessing. So how do you teach them about leadership? Like, firstly, because when you are teaching someone leadership, you are making them believe that leadership is a quality that can be trained. So what is that process like?
If you term this leadership quality as a leadership, then probably there's a lot of resistance towards it, because then it sounds so heavy. Oh my God, leadership. Then people are really reluctant towards it, and they really want to restrict themselves, and they start feeling in their own that, oh, I don't think this is for me. But if you see, every individual has that leadership within, right? And which has its own role to play. Like, as a mother, as a father, you have a different leadership that you need to showcase. As a child, you have a different angle to leadership that you may want to exhibit. So I don't really teach leadership skill as a leadership, because being a leader is a combination of different elements coming together and bringing that change that we just spoke about. So I focus on bringing those elements within you to life. So one of them could be, say, accountability, right? Being accountable towards something. Now, my way of telling them is always, so my standard format that I follow is, number one, why this? And I don't introduce the topic, okay? So I just say, okay, this is a specific behavior. So why this specific behavior? How is it affecting you? So how not having this trait is affecting you in the first place. And then how developing this trait within can benefit you. So then, there's this brighter picture in front of them, and we talk about the benefits. And then we come up, okay, how can we build this? What are the core behaviors that you need to probably showcase? And then you slowly introduce the topic that, you know what, this is accountability. And then they're like, oh, wow, this is something we have. This is something that we do. This is something that we need to develop. And I think this is how we develop. Now, this is about kids, okay? When dealing with corporates, you deal with a very, very different approach, because there the challenge is way different. The challenge is to accomplish the organizational goals, to meet those targets, right? To handle people within the organization. So there you simply need to talk about, hey, how do you want these people to really look up to you? How do you want these people to be a part of your team, so as you can organize, you can achieve this goal of the organization with a collaborative approach. So then what are the skills that you need? You'll have to keep reminding them what they're good at through appreciation. We'll also need to keep reminding them about things that they need to work upon. Then how do you do that? If you go directly and tell them that, hey, this is something you need to work on, they'll start defending themselves, and then your purpose will not be solved. So then we give them some frameworks to start working on, and then we tell them, what this was just learning about what are the feedback skills and what are the feedback methods we should start applying. And that is just one element of being a good leader. So a good leader needs to be great at giving feedbacks, because that's an everyday thing that he or she, needs to be uh, involved into. So this is how we introduce this topic. So it's not about naming a skill and start building it. It's about creating the need is to why this is needed, how not having this is affecting you, and how building this is going to benefit you, help you. And when you introduce all these three things, then the person is really inclined, oh yeah, I think I need this, what is it, then tell me more about it. Then you start telling that about it.
Correct. So what does a leader do? Like, I think so you expanded on that topic in the previous question as well. But when we talk about corporate leaders, or someone who is in a college area, like maybe in the 17, 18 years of age, what he or she needs to do to, inspire their people? Like, what is that thing?
In the first place, they really need to know themselves. I don't know if you've heard of this term called a SWOT analysis. Right? So they need to SWOT themselves, who they are, what are their strengths, what are the areas that they need to work on, what are the opportunities lying for them, and what are the risks that they can get into. So know yourself using this framework. This is one of my frequently used tools. I use it everywhere. Even when I want to have some breakfast, I use this tool. So even if I have to wear something, decide what to wear, I use this tool. So amazing tool. So use this tool to know yourself first. Once you know yourself, try to understand and know more about the vision that you have, or maybe know the vision of your organization or your institute, and try and align your vision with theirs. What is that they aspire? So you would know that, okay, in that case, what is that you now want? Then you have to, inspire others by doing things. You can't just keep telling them, hey, do this, do that, give big motivational speeches. No, you need to start doing things, show change, bring change in a way that, that change inspires others around you. So you need to initiate that. You need to proactively start doing it. You also need to ensure that, the task is accomplished, the job is done. You need to be able to make a decision that is right. Now, right is what is needed at that given point of time. So now things may be right, wrong, different perspectives in one place. So you also need to have that ability to have, multiple perspectives, looking at things from different perspectives. So that is what can be done. You need to be empathetic to people. You need to show people around you that you care. You're not just there to fulfill, your aspirations and your desires, but you're really looking forward to collaboratively do things. That's the message you need to give, and not just through speech. I would repeat it. It's all through your behaviors, through your actions, and
Correct.
not everybody understands this indirect language. So you need to be also, able to communicate it clearly, to
Hmm.
articulate everything that you say. So you have to be a strong communicator as well.
Right. Right.
And take responsibility, take ownership for everything that has to be done. Take credits for achievements, uh, take responsibility for failures, and stand ahead of everyone. If you've achieved something, then just be the last one in the race,
Yeah.
just be the last one in the line. And if there's a failure, then be in front to deal with
Correct.
all the hassles and consequences. So
Yeah.
basically, leadership is not just reserved for one type of person, or probably a level of experience. No, I think what it is, it's just enough determination, and of course having the right positive attitude. So everybody can be a leader, not just someone in a corporate or in a school or in family, but I think
Yeah.
every individual.
Yeah. Beautiful. Like when we talk about the qualities of leaders, तो मेरे लिए leadership where I have learned from is from the Indian Army. Like मैं उनके साथ में Indian Army के लोगों के साथ में बहुत ज़्यादा podcast करता हूँ, and I have a conversation with them, and I was having this one conversation with someone who was in the special forces. And
Okay.
special forces is the force which does all these surgical strikes and everything. And I asked him one very basic question about leadership in the army, and he told me the ranks are just there, but वो सिर्फ नाम के ranks है when you are front to front with the enemy, and when the bullets are firing, तो जो तुम्हें rank दिया गया है by the government, उसका कोई मैटर नहीं करता. मैटर करता है कि उस टाइम पे whatever you are doing, and the leader
Right.
is someone who raises his hand in the difficult time, and he says कि okay, I am going to take charge. So, in the same way, according to you, what are the good qualities of a leader? Like, how do we define कि अच्छा ये इंसान बहुत अच्छा leader है? So, what will define that?
Right. So, as you rightly mentioned, what you just gave an example of is termed as situational leadership, because you
Okay.
need to take a decision at that very moment. So
Hmm.
it's situational, and you really can't wait for anybody else to guide you what has to be done, because I think that's last very moment where you either do or die actually.
Right.
So making decisions, ability to make a decision is very, very important. And to make the decision, you have to be very, very analytical, and
Hmm.
the processing has to be very fast. The mind maps should be, so very fast that you are able to think in different directions in that short span of maybe a few microseconds, right? So
Right.
that is one quality that you need to have. You can't afford to panic in any situation,
Yeah.
because as
Yeah.
a leader, as I've said, that you stand in front when dealing with failures,
Hmm.
and you can't afford to really panic or feel overwhelmed in a
Yeah.
negative way because of such failures. As a leader, it's also mentioned that you need to be able to empower others, and to do that,
Correct.
you need to start listening to them first, right? So you have to be a great listener.
Hmm.
uh, you also need to be able to recognize your people's strengths,
Yeah.
your people's strengths, who is good at what, and at the same time yours and others shortcomings also.
Hmm.
And just knowing about them is not enough. You need to also start accepting them, understanding that yes, everybody has different capabilities, and so that should be your point of focus, and you should focus on how can you capitalize onto the strengths,
Hmm.
keeping shortcomings in
Yeah.
mind or giving them the action plans to overcome those, but your focus should be how you can capitalize on those strengths. uh, Another very important thing as a leader is you always have a lot of past experiences, right? Because that's what has made you a leader at this
Correct.
given point of time. uh, Very important thing is to remember what you've learned from your past experiences, because if you're
Hmm.
repeating the same mistake again and again, then definitely you're not a leader, because
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
haven't learned. And continuous learning is one of the very, very important factors that actually make you a leader. you need to be good with your people, and that can happen by showing trust, sharing trust. uh, you need to take control of things. Taking accountability is one thing, that you are responsible towards something, but at the same time you also need to you know uh, take control in what ways or in which direction you're actually steering your wheel. That's
Right.
very, very
Right.
important.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And yeah, and you need to keep constantly, firing up your team members to do better and what they can do. Keep inspiring them. And
Yeah.
I think that inspiration comes only and only when you are doing things, when you are leading with example. So I think that is one thing that you need to focus on. And
Correct.
yeah, so true leaders, to be honest, they're not born. People say that okay, you're a born leader, but honestly speaking, nobody's a born leader. They've
Correct.
made themselves, to be a leader, and you can, of course, be a leader if you embrace all these qualities
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you've just.
And you talked about like leaders are not born, they are made. And one of the best examples of that is the Indian cricket team. Like first there was Kapil Dev, then came Sunil Gavaskar as the captain, I'm saying. Then Saurav Ganguly, Mohammad Azharuddin, MS Dhoni, Virat Kohli. So there are so many examples. One captain shaping up another captain in their term. And
Right.
that's the most beautiful example of this, and a lot of people can relate with that. So continuing the same point, I want to play a very quick fire round with you so that people get to understand this whole leadership thing very nicely and they can adapt that in their own life. So I'll give you a name of a leader. There are like few leaders that I have picked up, and you give me one of their traits that you think makes them who they are. Okay, cool. So leader number one, Narendra Modi.
Oratory skills. I mean, look at the conviction that he has in
Yeah,
his speech and the passion that he showcases. I think, yeah, that helps develop trust. So I would
correct.
say passion and conviction in his speech.
Beautiful. Second leader, Jeff Bezos.
Thinking out of the box.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
creative. Everything innovative, constantly changing. I mean, there's nothing that you'll see permanent. So I think
Yeah,
that's how it has to be. You don't give people chances to replicate your copy.
correct. Correct. Okay, so now the next leader, someone from the film industry, Priyanka Chopra.
Fearless. Look at her attitude,
Hmm.
clarity. I mean, she knows what she wants, and she's not fearless about doing anything, everything. Look at the level of hard work she puts into, and
Yeah,
I think she risks everything because I think
beautiful.
she knows what she's doing and she's very confident about it. So, yeah.
Correct. So yeah, I totally relate. I read her book, and she is one of the most fearless person from the whole film fraternity, especially. Okay, so the next leader, Ranveer Singh.
This reminds me of a book that's one of my favorites. Stop thinking about who's saying what.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think, yeah, and that's a quality of a leader, because if you keep, driving your attention towards, hey, you know what he must be thinking, what she must be thinking, what are they saying about me? I think you'll never be able to focus on what you really want in life.
Hmm.
And look at him. I mean, he's happy being crazy. He's happy being called crazy. And he's okay with it. And he's simply accepting himself and he's respecting his own choices.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah, not giving.
self-confidence.
Self confidence would be, I think, too underrated. But
Okay.
just being yourself,
Right.
I think.
So as in like, being okay with who you are.
Loving who you are.
Correct. Yeah, that makes more sense. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Next leader, and this is one of my most favorite person right now in the whole world. This is Elon Musk.
Analytics. I
Hmm.
mean, look at his analysis and speed of analyzing everything. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
he's I mean, if I were to see his brain, I would always see numbers, floating in his brain, and he's always calculating something or the other.
yeah.
God knows what. So in-depth analysis. So in-depth study,
Correct,
in-depth analysis.
correct. Okay. And then the last leader, and this is someone whom I'm studying since a long time now, because the way this person talks, the way he shows himself in front of people, it's just phenomenal. This is Barack Obama.
I think overcoming barriers. I mean, not really giving a damn to whatever restrictions there are. So just overcoming everything, bringing that change. I think because I think he's the best example we can quote here when we talk about as a leader, bringing change and daring to bring the change and embracing that change too.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so these were the leaders that I specifically wanted to ask you, because ये ऐसे leaders हैं जिनके साथ में everyone can relate. People from the very young age, like maybe 16, 17 to people in the early 50s or 60s as well. They know about these leaders because every time there's some news, these people are there somewhere. So that's why I wanted to ask you about these people, and then whoever's listening or watching this podcast, they can build these qualities in themselves. So one of the topmost quality, by the way, I was researching for this podcast, and I was researching on leadership, like what is the one quality which every leader has, and somewhere I found that every leader is confident, and being confident is something which not a lot of people know, because when you go up on the stage, stage fright is the like biggest enemy of everyone. Public speaking is one of those things. In fact, just normal communication is that thing, and confidence is something which is like the medicine for all these problems. So how do you build confidence?
Okay, how do you build confidence? The first thing, building confidence starts from changing your mindset, to be very honest.
Okay.
And that mindset shift is, or that mindset change is, that you need to get rid of just being perfect. Because I think a lot of us, most of us, are just overwhelmed with the burden of being perfect, being a perfect son, daughter, daughter-in-law, mother, parent, and just to be perfect. I think we are suppressing our own wants, desires, feelings, and we have started overlooking what we really want. And then when we try to do something, we can't give our 100%, which does not give us 100% results. And then we start feeling we're good for nothing.
Makes sense.
So, and when we're writing exams, you feel, oh, you know what, I need to score 100 because that's perfect.
Yeah.
And when you score 90, 95, you feel, oh, I'm not perfect. And then you get demotivated. So, and then it affects your confidence. So I think get off this race of being perfect, because I think perfection is a myth.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So I'll give you one very specific example. This is when I started this podcast, I wanted to be perfect. Like I wanted the camera to be perfect. I wanted the mic. I wanted the lights. And then I realized if I went for perfectionism, there was something which was not going to happen every time. Like तुम हमेशा perfect नहीं हो सकते. So perfectionism is a myth for sure. And also somewhere it kills your curiosity to maybe वो जो जुगाड़ू mentality होती है वो perfectionism kill कर देगा. So I really want to know from you, and I asked this question to everyone, by the way, every guest that has come on the show. I have asked them this question to them: how do you build curiosity? Because in India, especially, as we grow up, there are a lot of things that we are told कि इस चीज का तुम्हें ध्यान रखना है, these are your responsibilities, and somewhere while taking care of those responsibilities we kill our curiosity. So how do we give birth to that curiosity again?
I think when you limit yourself to things, जब आपके पास बहुत स्कोप नहीं होता है ना, जब आपके पास चीजें इजीली अवेलेबल नहीं होती है, तब आप ज्यादा क्यूरियस होते हैं. तो मुझे लगता है ना कि कोई भी चीज जब चाहिए तो लेट द फर्स्ट आंसर बी नो, and just get happy about it. Oh, why has it said no and what I can do about it? So instead of getting depressed. Oh, he said no. Now what do? I don't have an option. I'm demotivated. I don't feel like working today. I don't feel like talking to anyone today. Instead of that, just get pepped up. Oh, chalo, new project. Let's figure out why he said no. What can be done? So I think that's how. By again, this is again a shift in the mindset that you do. So that's how you build curiosity. And I think otherwise also, why can't just we be curious and just keep answering the questions why, and how. So I think just make these two questions your best friends and never let them leave you or don't leave them anywhere and move. Because अगर मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि अगर अभी लाइट है तो ठीक है, क्यों है, कैसे है, अगर नहीं है तो क्या. तो मुझे लगता है ये क्वेश्चंस हम जितना अपने आप से पूछते हैं तो ये क्यूरियोसिटी बढ़ाता है. एट द सेम टाइम we are increasing our awareness, we are increasing our knowledge, we're researching more. So again, it helps build multiple perspectives. And then what happens is, when your focus is just outcome कि मुझे ये करना है, और अगर वो नहीं हो रहा है तो वहां से शिफ्ट करके मुझे लगता है आपका फोकस आप इस तरह ड्राइव कीजिए दैट in what ways and to what extent are you progressing towards that outcome.
Right.
And if you're progressing good, then how you can speeden up that progress. If you're not progressing, then okay, what is that barrier, and then how can I break that barrier. So focus always on improving and progressing towards, of course you'll always have a realistic outcome. If you don't then have a realistic one, and focus on that progression that you are going through. I think if you minutely observe everything, every little change that's happening in you, then there's no way that you won't be curious about how things are happening, how things are getting done.
So you know what, like I was curious about this one question, that why do Indians show this specific mentality where they are not curious enough about how the world is progressing? And I was doing this one research on various cultures and tradition all over the world, and I was analyzing कि क्या होता है सब cultures में that makes those people curious and we are not at that level par with them. So there's this one really interesting thing, which is in India, whenever a kid comes back from school, the parents ask him or her कि आज school में क्या किया. And when you go to Israel, whenever a kid comes back from school, their parents ask them, what was that one question that you asked today? They are basically, so you see the difference, like they are asking the kids कि क्या question पूछा instead of क्या किया. So that basically builds that confidence to ask question. In India, we are not confident enough to just ask the question. Like whenever I went to school, okay, my teachers told me, you ask me 100 questions, I will answer you. But at the 101st question, if it is the same question, you are going to get the beatings. So somewhere we are like downplaying that whole, how should I put it? We are downplaying that one segment of our psychology where we downgrade everyone who wants to ask questions. And that's what kills the curiosity.
Yes, and what are the reasons behind it? I think the most common reason that the entire focus of parents and everybody is just in, okay, what have you learned and what have you done, is because they can't ever stop comparing themselves and their kids with people around. I mean, they're so used to comparing, and they want to always be on the upper side, where they are better, and they want to prove that they are better, their kids are better. So hence their focus is always like, अच्छा क्या किया, so that अब आप उसको देखो, जब वो अपने बेटे से पूछते हैं और जब शाम को आप उनको देखोगे ना कि अपनी फ्रेंड्स में चिट-चैट करे, अच्छा हाँ आज पता है क्या, मेरे बेटे ने ना ये बात की. So they want to flaunt their kids really just to prove a point that okay, they're probably good parents. So number one is comparisons, and number two, I think, is people really are very, very happy with their comfort zones here. देखो ना, if someone wants to work, if you see, say, a well-to-do family business है, बेटे ने कुछ पढ़ लिया है and he wants to start something of his own या go work and explore the corporate, then like करना क्या है, इतना तो सब जमाया हुआ है, इसको कौन ध्यान रखेगा, why do you want to struggle, start doing this and forget about people, I mean not wanting to get out of comfort zones, but the elderly people in the family don't want them to get out of the comfort zone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why is the AC not on? Why is my son sitting without AC? अच्छा ये बच्चे ने तुमने कुछ खिलाया क्यों नहीं, तुमने फ्रूट क्यों नहीं खिलाया, अरे नहीं खिलाया उसको भूख लगेगी वो खा लेगा, let him know what is discomfort first in the place. तो ये बहुत सारी चीजें हो जा रही है. और now when the child is, or anybody, because obviously initially it starts off being as a child that he's so used to this comfort level and everybody taking care of himself that he doesn't want to explore. And then as he grows up, he doesn't know what is actually exploring. I mean, only what his conscious mind can show him that okay, this is something to explore. वो थोड़ा आगे जाएगा, but थोड़ा सा defeat and पीछे आ जाएगा because not used to. Even at the age of 25, 30, he or she can actually afford to experiment and explore everything, but they won't because they feel कि यार नहीं, why, ज़रूरत क्या है? And I think
in fact
that is,
no, no. I was just saying that what I have figured out is in the Western society and the Eastern society, there's this one difference, which is in the Eastern society, parents dream about their future through their kids. And in the Western society, it's the individual dreams. So they let their kids go. And I don't know why there's this situation where Indian parents want to I don't know how should I put it without being cruel, कि Indian parents just want their kids to do what they couldn't do, and that's the reality somewhere, although it's maybe changing now because of the social media, because of the internet, but that's the different conversation.
It is, and unfortunately this is the sad truth, and as you said that yes, things are changing, but let me tell you, we see as things are changing, but it's all hypocrisy. See a lot of parents coming to me and telling me, you know what, we've left it all up to him to decide what he wants to do in his life, and it's his decision. And then when you actually tend to ask them, okay, how are you supporting him and how are you doing things for him, they have no answers to it. So because now there is a concept that is being introduced that says that okay, stop fulfilling your wishes and your desires through your child, and we want to be the ideal parents, I would say yes, we have adopted this, but if you really go and ask them, it has not happened. It's just that they want to tell people that we've changed, we are modern parents, but in reality it has not happened.
In fact, like what happens is, and I have noticed this very recently, because I am someone, as you said, ki India mein, if there's someone who has a family business, people tell them ki why do you want to explore something else, and I am someone who comes from that same state. But I explained to my parents that I don't want to come into the business. I want to figure out what I want to do in life as I grow. And okay, I had very chilled out parents, so for me it was easy. But when I talk to others, like people who are younger than me, they tell me ki their parents have given them 1 year, and I have such a big problem with this. Ki if you are a parent and you are saying ki I will let you do whatever you want to do, then why put a time limit on that? Why cannot you accept that okay, he failed, he will try something new? Why cannot you accept that?
Everything is so conditional, and that's why I say that even parents are, even when they're telling their children that yes, they're supportive, I think they just are validating to themselves and telling themselves that they are ideal parents. They don't want to get out of that comfort zone. So basically that's a validation for themselves, so that tomorrow they don't have a guilt that hey, look, you know what, we did support you. It was you who were not able to complete it or achieve it. So it's your fault, not ours. And welcome to the real world. This is how it is, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So it's also important for, people who fail and are dealing with, such people around, with due respect to parents, because I'm sure they have their own reasons. But yeah, in such situations, I think even they need to take some unbiased opinions from people around them. They need to, seek help from people.
Yeah.
That's different. But yes, so young, people who are actually dealing with such things, uh,
Correct.
you really want to take ownership of your own life. I think because leadership starts right from there. You take ownership of your life first, and then you
Yeah.
can, own other people around you. So
Correct.
learn to heal your own wounds and make your own decisions and be prepared to deal with anything that comes your way.
Yeah. And
And
don't be
just
scared by failures.
absolutely no. I mean, I would say be ready that there are going to be failures and don't look at it as a failure. Just look
Yeah.
at it as, okay, fine, like another opportunity to explore what has not worked for you, maybe.
Correct.
And you'll sail through it. But yes, in the process, it's very important to ensure that, you have studied well about that
Right.
particular thing, you
Yeah.
researched well, and you're rationally making a decision and not
Yeah.
under
Calculated
influence.
risk.
Calculated risks, of course.
Correct.
You
Beautiful.
can't be like
Okay.
overconfident about what you're doing and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Beautiful. So,
Mhm.
okay, this was our segment about leadership. There are many questions that I want to ask you on specifically leadership, but then let's move on from this topic and maybe we can do another podcast where we just discuss leadership qualities. There's this other aspect of your life where you are teaching people, training people in NLP. And NLP is something which I am clueless about, and I specifically didn't wanted to research about it because I had you on the podcast. So I thought, okay, I'll just sit down and ask you very basic questions, not well researched questions on this thing. So, firstly, what is neuro-linguistic programming?
So, neuro-linguistic programming. Neuro, we all know it's
Hmm.
brain.
Yeah.
Linguistic is our language. Our language, we all know verbal language, what we speak, and the non-verbal language as well. So, what
Hmm.
our body says, what our behavior says, what our action
Correct.
says. Okay. And then programming. So now there's this one fact that everything that we do is influenced from here, right? From our
Hmm.
mind
Hmm.
and brain. So everything is processed through that.
Right.
Now, how our actions and our language affects and programs our mind and brain to achieve the desired outcome is
Hmm.
all NLP about. So neuro-linguistic
Okay.
programming is, in say simple words, a way of understanding how your mindset influences your reality, what you
Hmm.
want to achieve and what you are today and what you want to
Right.
be tomorrow. So
Correct.
that
So,
is, I think,
like, if we had to expand on the same topic, how do you train people in this? Like, I want to know what is that process because, ठीक है, समझ में आ गया what is NLP, but why is it used today in the modern world?
okay. So as I said that uh, when because we are social animals,
Hmm.
we live with people, around people,
Yeah.
there are people around us, and it's very important to be social and
Hmm.
understand each other, because only then you will be in harmony, you will be in peace with the society and environment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you need to have and understand different perspectives also.
Hmm.
You need to have different perceptions, understand them, and to be able to do that, NLP helps you.
Okay.
uh, you can totally reprogram your mindset. So right from, say, if you like something too much, way too much, but
Hmm.
you have realized that it's not good for you. Even after
Hmm.
knowing that, it becomes very, very difficult to quit that thing. And you may have live examples where people are genuinely wanting to quit a lot of things,
Yep.
but
Yep.
then they come up and say, "यार नहीं हो पा रहा, I don't know, मैं कर नहीं पा रहा हूँ, मैं नहीं छोड़ पा
Hmm.
रहा हूँ या जा पा रही हूँ." So in this way, what you need is support from your subconscious mind. So for that, you need to reprogram your entire mindset,
Correct.
so as to do what you really want to do and stop doing what you don't want to do. So this entire reprogramming happens in your mind,
Correct.
right? Now, as we discussed, that you change perceptions. So by changing the way we perceive things, it helps us create new approaches and opportunities in life, have better workplace relationships, have better personal life, professional life. So
Yeah.
NLP is also about understanding how we work and how we can change our behaviors, because
Correct.
आप लाइफ में किसी को भी आने दो, आपको लगेगा यार what, he should change this, she should change this. These people come to you and they tell you, hey, what, Jay, you need to change this in you. And
Right.
I think, yes, change is the only constant. And what change, it does not mean that you really change yourself entirely. It's just that
Correct.
you get yourself to be flexible with how people are around you for
So
their benefit.
I have like two specific questions here. You said, you mentioned that you can change some specific things about yourself through NLP. Now, for example, if there's someone who wants to quit smoking, so
Yes.
can NLP help them quit smoking?
Yes, if he or she really wants to.
Okay, and how do you do that?
So there's a technique where we ask them in the first place to ensure that they really want to quit smoking. Okay, and once we know, we have this now. Okay, so when you are doing a particular thing, you're doing it because you're liking it. And when I say you're liking it, in your mind there is this internal representation of this particular thing. That's how you see it, feel that particular thing, you maybe even hear about the thing.
Yeah.
So this entire internal representation is there. So what we do is we change that entire internal representation that you have towards that particular thing. So what we do is maybe we ask you about something that you really don't like, and
Correct.
these internal representations are swapped. Okay, the one that you really like with the one that you do not like. So now this internal representation towards this thing that you like is now changed to the one that you had towards the thing you do not like. And that's how
Correct.
now when you look at the thing, your mind says, you say, oh, I don't like this thing.
Okay. So is this a slow process?
As slow as around 100 to 120 minutes.
Oh, wow. So it's basically fast. Okay. And in the same way, if we talked about helping someone who wants to quit a particular thing, but can NLP also be used to build something in a person? For example, leadership.
Yes.
Okay. And in the process is same.
Now, see, there are different techniques for different things, for different changes to bring, because it's a list of different tools and techniques. But here, then what we understand, so if Jay comes to me and says, hey, you know what, Snehal, I want to be a great leader, then I would ask Jay, what's your definition of leadership? Because what he thinks leadership is may not be the one that I think. Okay, so for him, leadership could be accountability, and for him, accountability could be different. The way he looks at accountability could be different than what I look at it, right? So I understand those things, and then I install these behaviors in Jay.
Right.
So then there are this list of behaviors that we may want to install, and then we install these behaviors, and there's again a process of doing it. And once his behaviors are installed, then Jay is a leader, right?
Right.
So
okay, got it.
We only need to understand is, if Jay wants to be a leader, what exactly about a leader that is Jay looking forward to,
so it's very
adopt.
specific thing.
Very, very specific.
All right, got it. So why should someone go for NLP today? Like in this pandemic hit world, what are those specific reasons, and what should people know about NLP that is not available on the internet, that specific information?
NLP is the best tool for just excelling at whatever you are doing. It's one of the best tools to be, mindful about how you are thinking and how you're feeling at the moment, and you can actually change how you feel and think about, certain things. You can absolutely change the way you, start feeling about something. You want to set goals. Now, you may have seen people or hear people saying, okay, you know what, this is what I want to achieve. And when you go back to them 6 months down the line, पूछोगे क्या हुआ, they'll be like, कुछ नहीं यार, ये बैरियर्स आ गए, ये प्रॉब्लम्स आ रहा है. तो प्रॉब्लम उसके गोल में नहीं था, प्रॉब्लम ये था कि उसका जो गोल सेट हुआ था ना, वो बहुत कॉन्शियस लेवल पे हुआ था, सबकॉन्शियस लेवल पे इंस्टॉल नहीं हुआ था. क्योंकि अगर सबकॉन्शियस लेवल पे इंस्टॉल होता तो उसको खुद कुछ करने की जरूरत ही नहीं पड़ती. His mind would have actually driven him in that direction to achieve that goal. So you can achieve all your goals using NLP. It's such an amazing tool and technique that it can be used for sales, into leadership, for personal development, to get better into careers, get better into relationships, achieve business goals, change the quality of your life, have better relationships, and just having best of everything that's possible. And you will find a lot of people who are restricting themselves to do a particular thing because of their past experiences or some traumas that probably they're not aware of, that's somewhere so deep down in the subconscious mind, but it's still holding them back. So NLP can help them overcome all these barriers.
Correct.
And start it all afresh.
So, I'm sure a lot of people would have this one question, and this can be a bizarre question. I don't know if it is right as well. Is NLP a combination of therapy and hypnosis in a way?
Okay, so NLP can be therapeutic. Number one, it's not just a therapy, but it can be therapeutic. Hypnosis is a part of what we do in NLP. So because when we are making changes and we're bringing changes in the subconscious mind, one has to be in trance. Because उनका awareness level उस level का होना चाहिए उस समय, वो अपने subconscious से connect रहना चाहिए, तभी वो change वहाँ हो पाएगा. So hypnosis is a state that we actually put our people into. So
got it.
Not just a combination of therapy and hypnosis, but yes, it can be.
So various branches of that.
It's a combination of a lot more other things.
Okay, got it. So what are these other things which make NLP?
How you speak, your language. अगर language में ही हम बात करते हैं, तो जैसे आपने बोला, हमने अभी डिस्कस किया था कि आपको क्या इतना स्पेसिफिक होना पड़ता है, तो हाँ, कुछ चीजों के लिए बहुत स्पेसिफिकली हमको बात करनी पड़ती है. But and that's called as Milton model. So that's why Milton Erickson. So you call it a Milton language. You talk all vague because he's an hypnotist. Okay. Then there's another way where you actually speak into specific. Ericksonian is vague. You talk vague. Specifics में बात करते हैं तो आपको specific पता होना चाहिए because उसी को आप deal कर रहे हो. That is from Virginia Satir. She's very, very specific into her questioning and stuff. And Ericksonian हम इसलिए vague language use करते हैं because जब आप vague questions पूछते हो ना, तो ऐसी बहुत सी बातें, चीजें अंदर रहती हैं इंसान के माइंड में जो खुल के बाहर आती है. क्योंकि अगर आप उसको एक स्पेसिफिक क्वेश्चन पूछोगे, आपको स्पेसिफिक हाँ ना जवाब दे देगा और खत्म हो जाएगा. बट यू हैव टू अलाउ हिम टू स्पीक मोर. तो वो वेग आपको बात करनी पड़ती है और यू नीड टू अलाउ द अदर पर्सन टू स्टार्ट स्पीकिंग वेग एंड देन प्रॉब्ली यू कैन गेट इनटू स्पेसिफिक्स इफ यू वांट टू. So ये language patterns हो जाते हैं. Plus how you look at things also changes everything, and that reflects through your communication. So if say Jay, you come and tell me that, hey, you know what, Snehal, I can't swim. And so I just and you are living with the fact that, okay, no, I can't swim, I don't know how to swim, I can't swim. And then I question you, did you ever try swimming? And then you'll be, oh no, I never did. And so then how do you know that you can't swim? Because that's a limiting belief that you have, right? So you
Correct.
break limiting beliefs through the power of language. As I've said, it's all about the power of language, verbal and non-verbal.
Hmm.
But there are different ways and approaches to it. So
Right.
subconsciously doing it, then following that process. Then NLP has their own pillars, okay? It's flexibility. You need to be very, very flexible. Okay, ये work नहीं हो रहा है,
Yeah.
ये work हो जाएगा. And it's okay. You don't want to do a technique this way, you want to do it this way, then fine, चलेगा, कोई problem नहीं है. सबसे ज्यादा important यहाँ पे है आपकी sensory acuity. Sensory
Hmm.
acuity is you should be able to read a person as minute as the color change in the tone of
Oh,
the
wow.
cheek,
Okay.
how the eyes are widening up, आपके
Hmm.
eyeballs अगर क्वेश्चन पूछने के बाद लेफ्ट में ऊपर जा रहे हैं या राइट में ऊपर जा रहे हैं, लेफ्ट में नीचे जा रहे हैं या राइट में, you easily get to know if the person is constructing something to tell you or is he
Hmm.
really recalling something. तो आपको झूठ पकड़ में आ
Yeah.
जाता
Correct.
है. ये
Wow. So
चीजें हैं.
it is very specific things, right? In a very detailed manner.
Yeah, very very detailed. So it's a study of human behavior,
Got it.
and how you actually build rapport with people at a subconscious level.
Hmm.
बिकॉज हमें ऐसा लगता है कि हम पूछते हैं हाय कैसे हो क्या हो, ये क्वेश्चंस पूछ लिए, दो चार पर्सनल क्वेश्चन आंसर्स शेयर कर लिए, तो हमको लगता है ओ यू नो व्हाट, यू शेयर एन अमेजिंग रैपो विद ईच अदर. बट
Hmm.
व्हाट इफ यू डोंट गेट एन अपॉर्चुनिटी टू build that rapport? Will you
Yeah.
just give up? It's an important deal and the person does not like speaking. How do you build rapport? So then there are
Hmm.
ways to build rapport at a subconscious level. So
Wow.
there are a lot of things. It's an amazing field, and it's
Got it.
great.
Beautiful. So I never knew about NLP, and this is something which has maybe irked me towards that specific path.
Right, right. It will indeed, because you know what? It's actually a structured approach, to personal improvement for maybe
Hmm.
your personal life goals, your professional goals, anything. The best part
Yeah.
about it is that it is a very, very structured way.
Beautiful. Okay. Got it. So okay, so this was a very heavy conversation up till now. And okay, to make it very light towards our ending segment of this podcast, very basic things, like since you talk about NLP, you talk about leadership, and you teach these things to people. What are okay? So we are firstly living in a very different world now. It is a pandemic hit world. A lot of people have lost their jobs because of the pandemic. A lot of people have lost their loved ones because of this, and it's a very uncertain environment. And I come from a business family, so I had that opportunity to see how lives of people got affected because of pandemic, because the businesses were down. People couldn't come to job, and if you're not going to the job, you won't get the salary. Then the whole thing start where people start firing people. um in this world, what are the specific skills that people need to build to become a better human being, a better leader, or in general, how can they survive in this modern world?
Uh, the first thing, we all know about different quotients, right?
Hmm.
IQ, EQ,
Yeah.
SQ.
Yeah.
हर कोई बात करता है इनके बारे में.
Hmm.
Right? IQ is very important to growth. EQ is important
Right.
to being people, because we're social creatures.
Hmm.
But the very important one is that especially COVID has taught us, and that's I think adversity quotient, right?
Hmm.
So how
What
do
do you
you
mean by
deal?
adversity quotient?
So that's your ability to deal with adverse situations. That's
Hmm.
actually preparing you to be able to still stay calm and think
Yeah.
how you can get over what has now started affecting you in a negative way. So to
Right.
develop that ability is developing the AQ, because I think it's making people, preparing people to uh, understand and accept that things are definitely not going to happen their way, and things are
Hmm.
definitely not going to be constant, and nothing in this world is something that you can rely upon.
Correct.
Anything can happen at any moment. So I think developing that ability to handle such situations is developing AQ, that's adversity.
Okay.
So that is one thing. And, the little habits and little things I think we need to really develop. Those are also very, very important skills. So I think the right skills to understand and avoid infection, because, this COVID has taught us of how do you sanitize yourself. How to take precaution of yourself, all of it. How do you survive in adverse situations? It has taught a lot of people to, start cooking and take care of the domestic chores. It has taught so many people, clean dishes and, use washing machines and stuff. And some basic information about, what are this basic medication, what could be basic. It has made people much aware, because I think a lot of doctors have also, it has actually gifted a lot of qualified doctors, because if there's any viral infection in the family, then I think they've come up with so many home remedies कि अच्छा ठीक है काढ़ा बना लेते हैं, ये help करेगा, क्योंकि लोग जाना नहीं चाहते थे हॉस्पिटल में कि ये सोच के कि पता नहीं वहां चले जाएंगे तो और क्या नई तकलीफ आएगी. Then I think people also did start respecting this basic amenities like food, fire, energy. And
oxygen.
Started respecting all of it. Water, oxygen, yes, oxygen. तो लोग environment की तरफ थोड़े और cautious हो गए हैं, ध्यान देने लग गए. मुझे लगता है ये सारी habits हमें डालनी होगी, ये skills develop करनी होगी. Plus हमारी जो hobbies हैं, उन्हें हम अपने काम में किस तरह से यूटिलाइज कर सकते हैं. हाउ कैन वी यूज आवर हॉबीज, आवर इंटरेस्ट टुवर्ड्स द financial benefit, and commercially how we can capitalize onto that. I think that is something that people should really start working upon, thinking towards everything in a very structured way, in an organization way. And I think building and maintaining relationships is also something that people have learned in this tough time. So I think these are the skills that are
so
very,
everything that you talked about, I think so it can be summed up in one or maybe two words, which is emotional quotient.
Yes, of course.
So how do you define emotional quotient firstly in very simple language?
देखो उसको डिफाइन करना वैसे ही बहुत सिंपल है. It's simply your ability to, I think, perceive, understand, and use your emotions and manage your emotions. I think that's emotional intelligence. And if you're high on emotional intelligence, then you have a high EQ. And that may sound very complicated, but that may still sound complicated. But the bottom line is that emotional intelligence, it simply means, having high emotional knowledge and skills.
So basically, like if you had to explain to 5-year-old, basically not being a robot.
Yes.
Right.
You know what? Not being a robo is one thing, yeah. But if you have someone, okay, now you know how this powerful and influential people are, okay. So घर में family में एक इंसान वैसे ही होता है जिससे सब डरते हैं. क्यों? क्योंकि वो ऊंची आवाज में बात करते हैं, कभी सीधा जवाब भी नहीं देंगे. So everybody scares. So he's not a robo, but he's still not emotionally intelligent. So not being a robo is still okay, but even as humans, not everybody is emotionally intelligent.
Correct. So can this be built?
Yes, of course. And this is one skill that you're not probably born with. वो ऊपर नीचे थोड़ा रहता है, एक trait रहता है क्योंकि वो genetically कुछ ना कुछ traits आते हैं.
Because we are humans.
Yes, because we are humans. लेकिन that totally depends on the environment that you've born and raised into. काफी influence उस चीज का होता है. But the best part is that at any level, at every given point of time, it can be learned.
So I'm guessing EQ can be learned through NLP as well.
NLP can work better if you have a higher EQ.
Okay. So it's the other way around.
हाँ, NLP आपके ऊपर काम ज्यादा अच्छे से करेगा, क्योंकि जब हम आपको क्वेश्चंस करें, अगर आप इमोशनल क्वोशिएंट आपका हाई है, that means you well aware of your own emotions. सो उसको
makes sense,
डील
yeah.
करना आसान हो जाता है. लेकिन
Correct.
अगर आपका EQ नहीं है, if you're not emotionally intelligent, then आपको ही नहीं पता रहेगा कि आपको actually क्या चाहिए and how you're feeling
Right.
about it. Because NLP all talks about how you're feeling, what you're thinking, what you're seeing, how you are,
Yeah.
you
So
know.
basically, EQ is the stepping stone towards NLP.
Uh, Stepping stone, one of the very, very important aspects.
Factors. Okay. Okay. Got it. So how do people, like whoever is listening to this podcast, I'm sure they are living in the same world that we are. So how can they cultivate EQ? Like how can they become better at expressing their emotions?
Yeah, so see, you only need to be more aware of emotions. Now, if you want to develop your EQ, then it's in the first place starts from you and then others, okay? So always be very, very selfish about it. If there's a change, start from you. If there's something good, start from you. Reward yourself first. If there's something that has not worked, start with you. Acknowledge the defeat. So everything starts from you, and so does developing EQ. So first, spend time with yourself. Be aware of your own emotions, and once you're aware of your emotions, then just accept them. Because कई बार ऐसे होता है कि hey, you know what, are you sad about not getting through the exam? No, I'm not sad. Come on, you're crying. If you're sad, then accept it. Yes, I'm sad because I am sad. So you need to start accepting, because unless you accept, you won't be able to deal with it. To be able to deal with it, you need to acknowledge and accept the fact that yes, you're going through that emotion, you're dealing with that emotion. And then you start, dealing with it. So in order to deal with it, then okay, then no more. Okay, what do you want to do? And start empathizing to yourself. Start empathizing to people around you. Because only when you understand their feelings, their emotions, is how you can go an extra mile and be able to help them. So I think start empathizing and practice doing this. Improve your social awareness. Just go meet people, look at what they're going through, what they're dealing with. Because कई बार ऐसे होता है ना, लोगों ने adverse situations नहीं देखी होती है. उनको लगता है उन्होंने एक चीज लाइफ में देख ली और उनको लगता है कि वाह, उन्होंने सब कुछ देख लिया. And they start feeling कि मुझसे ज्यादा परेशान इंसान तो कोई है ही नहीं. तो ऐसा नहीं है. Go meet people who are happier than you in least of the facilities. Go look at people still struggling for their basic necessities. So only when you go observe, you're socially aware of what all things are happening, is when you get introduced to these things. Oh, you know what, this exists too. And then you start really feeling, and then you would know that okay, what it means and how it feels and how it changes people's life. So just go slow and just observe everything. So as to you.
So basically, like what the problem is, I guess, that people have forgotten that life exists out of their four walls as well. We all live in our specific bubbles, and we think कि जो इस bubble में है वही पूरी दुनिया का सच है. And then when we go out, we see okay, our bubble was just a part of a larger bubble, and that larger bubble is a part of another larger bubble, and it never ends. It's just a continuum.
Absolutely. I think that's a great metaphor that you used, Jay. And people fail, and not just in terms of emotional intelligence, even in IQ, be it any field, लोगों को लगता है कि हम just एक चार दीवारी that you mentioned उसमें है, बस उतना ही है और वैसा ही है. बाहर बहुत कुछ, आप जितना बाहर देखोगे, बाहर जाओगे, उतना आपको पता चलता है. There's so much to it. And then you realize, hey, you stand nowhere. But the point is that don't just get demotivated by it, and please don't convince yourself that, okay, you know what, I'm content and I'm happy, without even trying to explore. You try, explore, you experience defeat, then probably motivate yourself with, okay, what you've done is best, but don't use it as an excuse to, not exploring things.
So basically, people need to accept that sadness and happiness, these are two parts of life and they will exist. So there's nothing like कि सिर्फ happiness हो गया. There's nothing like there will only be sadness.
राइट और आप देखेंगे ना तो ये मेजर जो इमोशंस है वो यही है रेस्ट एवरीथिंग आर जस्ट देयर बाय प्रोडक्ट्स जैसे अगर हैप्पीनेस देखेंगे तो हैप्पीनेस में एक्साइटमेंट अलग है
Right,
एंथुजियाज्म
right.
अलग है तो awareness starts when you're able to name this specific emotion when you're able
Yeah.
to identify these emotions separately तो but people really want to stick to हाँ मैं खुश हूँ हाँ मैं दुखी हूँ but no it's
Hmm.
not it not
Yeah.
enough it's not
So
enough
I'll ask you a very specific question, and I know this conversation has dragged on for a long time. So one last question before we end this podcast. How do people stay happy? Like, and basically happiness can be a variety of things for a lot of people. For someone it is their spiritual growth, for someone it's the materialistic pleasures, for someone nothing is happiness. Having nothing, being nothing is happiness. So how should people stay happy?
I think people just need to stay themselves as they are, who they are. Know yourself, accept yourself, and live the way you want to. I think that's all. That sums it up.
Wow.
हम बहुत अपनी लाइफ्स कॉम्प्लिकेट कर देते हैं कि आई एम नॉट हैप्पी बिकॉज नो आई एम नॉट फुलफिलिंग हिज एक्सपेक्टेशंस आई एम प्रोबेबली वेरी हैप्पी बिकॉज यू नो व्हाट क्या होता है ना हमारा हैप्पीनेस द प्रॉब्लम इज दैट each of our emotion is dependent on someone else
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that is what is the problem. I'm happy because he appreciated me. I'm
Correct.
not happy because I need to be happy because I know I'm good. I don't need someone else's validation for me being good. I mean
Yeah.
that of course it gives me that it raises my confidence and motivation but I don't think my happiness or my sadness should depend on someone else's behavior or someone else's action. If I'm
Yeah.
good, I should be happy of what I am, and I think that's all it should be.
Correct. And there's this one quote, right? That happiness, we all go seeking outside for happiness. And then at the end, we realize happiness was not something that you want to look for. It's within you. You just need to realize what you are, who you are, and you are happy. That's the most basic definition of being happy.
Yes, absolutely, and the equation is so simple. Know
Hmm.
yourself, accept yourself, be yourself. If you're liking it, be happy. If you're not liking it, then what is that you're not liking it, and start working towards it. Measure
Yeah.
progress, you'll be happy. I mean, it's so simple.
Yeah.
But the only problem is that
But
we
sadly, like we quantify our happiness through others. Like उसने मेरी कितनी तारीफ की, what may or may not be he or she will be thinking about me. Specific things like that.
unfortunately, and again, the worst part is that if you don't really, if your
Hmm.
happiness is not quantifiable basis on the other person's response or reaction towards you,
Yeah.
then sadly you mean no one to that person because then that ego comes into picture. Oh,
Yeah.
what I feel doesn't really matter to you. I think you should be
Correct.
happy about this not mattering to me, but it's the other way around.
Correct.
Yeah.
So before I ask you one last thing in this podcast, I'll give you a very specific example from my own life. This is
Yeah.
10th standard.
Uh-huh.
Since standard 7 to 10th, I have almost, I have flunked in my maths and science paper. And 10th is one
Uh-huh.
of the major years in every Indian student's life. And I
Correct.
got around like 60 or 65% in maths, and I was super happy. I go back to my tuition. I give my paper to my teacher, and she gives me paper of other students, and they have got 80, 85. Where at one point, when I saw 65, okay, I have not failed. I am happy. Like I was super happy. And as soon as I saw others getting 85, I was like, okay, no, I am not happy. This is the most saddest part of my life. And I think so that sums up our conversation about quantifying your happiness through others.
Comparisons. We did speak
Yeah.
about that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So this has been a great conversation. One last thing, and we again asked this question, not question, we asked this thing to everyone, which is what are your favorite books? And what are some books that people should read right now in this world? Maybe 2 or 3 books.
I think the first book that everyone should read is Seven Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah.
Now there's a myth that people want to be leaders, who want to drive people and influence people should only read this. But I would say that even if you think that you're doing nothing, even if you're a housewife, even if you're just sitting at your home, even if you're a student, you should read this book because it
Yeah.
gives you a great insight and direction towards leading your life, uh, and how you can enhance the quality of your life and how you can actually simplify your life. That's
Correct.
number one. Number two, subtle art of not giving a.
Yeah.
I mean, I beg people, start reading it. Start reading
Yeah.
it because you don't need people's validation. You need to
Hmm.
know yourself and you need to know what you want.
Yeah.
That's the other book. And the third book is The Four Agreements.
Oh, beautiful book. I finished it
Love.
yesterday, and
Oh, really?
yeah.
So, I mean, see, these are the agreements that you get into with yourself. I mean, forget about committing to other people for something. Just commit to yourself on certain things. Have those
Yeah.
rules and regulations for yourself and start abiding by those. And life is so simple. I mean, I don't know how people can stay away from reading it, but people do read these three books.
And
They're
the
going to
last
change
book,
their
The
life.
Four Agreements, is a very underrated book. I don't know even how I got to know about that book, but in an instance, I just bought it from Amazon and I read it and I was like, क्यों नहीं पता लोगों को इस book के बारे में? It's so good.
सच में बट आजकल मैं जितने लोगों से बात कर रही हूँ तो उन्हें पता है एटलीस्ट आई मीन दे नो. अच्छा, फोर अग्रीमेंट्स. हाँ, आई मीन काफी लोगों को पता है. पहले तो ऐसा होता था कि किसी को पता ही नहीं है. लेकिन अब आई फाइंड पीपल लाइक द वे आई फाउंड यू who said, oh, you have read it. You will look at four agreements and feel like probably it could be four stories or someone else's case studies and stuff.
So it is one of those books, like there's this another book, it's called Autobiography of a Yogi. So that is also a very underrated book, and a lot of people don't want to read it because of the language. But once you get through it, it's easy to understand. It's not that tough.
Yeah, I mean, again, curiosity. If you're curious to know more, then you would definitely complete this book as well. If not, then I think people are anyways happy with who they are. They don't want to get out of their comfort zone. So happy comfort zone.
Beautiful. So thank you so much, Snehal Malpani. This was such a good conversation. We talked about leadership, NLP, happiness, EQ, so many things like skills. And we have talked for like how much? Maybe more than 1 hour. So I don't know how we are going to present this podcast, but this was one hell of a conversation. Thank you so much for this. Whoever is listening to this, if you want to follow Snehal, you can find her, all the links in the description. You can go have a conversation with her on Instagram, on her website, email, anywhere that you find her. So thank you so much, Snehal, once again for coming on the show.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot for having me. It was wonderful.